So timestamps exist in case you just want to skip forward. This video is for anyone who's coming back since, well, pretty much the DLC, but also for me, just so I know through. So this top 4, again, so just skip to any part of the video in case you want to go. There are 3 sets of changes here, and that's how we're going to start, aside from when I transitioned to this, because for some reason I couldn't read the version, so I apologize to Aramite Games for whatever reason, because I thought it was like 1.8.12. No, it's 12. 12 is greater than 4, which is what you'll see at the bottom here. But otherwise, again, I'll be skipping over certain things, usually bug fixes, aside from one very specific bug that I ran into through the beta, and even in before the DLC or beta came out. But again, we'll just go through it. Again, I'll be reading for the sake of anyone who has watching on a small screen, or for whatever reason you're just listening. So let's just get into it. So when 1.8 actually came out, this was the changelog. I pulled these directly from Steam because, well, for some reason I couldn't record it on Steam. But yeah, this electricity thunderbolt are changes that were inspired by the community, so don't let it be said that the team does not listen to the community. Oh my goodness. And then these icons respond to each respective DLC, a frog and a bat. But as for new content and features, again, I'm going to try to relay my experience as close as possible. Let's just get into it. I added the option to purchase an additional blueprint slot in the reputation rewards panel at Prestige 12 and above. I've skimmed through these first notes, but essentially, yeah, an extra blueprint slot. Most of my mistakes are due to me and not due to RNG, if that makes any sense. Not that RNG is completely wild in Against the Storm, from what I understand, but let's just say whenever I make the wrong decision, I think the biggest, most frequent results of picking the wrong blueprint or cornerstone, as you can read here on screen, if you can, is that you pick one. Say you're going from, your grains to flour to whatever you're producing, or you're going just directly from, you're trying to make the incense line, so you try to do an in-between where you need like a container, and then you just end up getting blueprints that you don't want. But the game knows that something is abundant in your settlement, like meat, but then obviously that doesn't help you make incense. It can help indirectly with the very minor things, but you get what I mean. So an additional blueprint slot, I'll take it. Same thing for cornerstones. Additional slots can be bought using ancient tablets. Self-explanatory. The extra slot applies only to the current blueprint selection. It can be bought again for the next reputation reward choice. Same thing for cornerstone, so pretty much the same thing, except that the additional cornerstone slot can be purchased on Prestige 13 and above, and Reputation is Prestige 12 and above. Both prestiges in which I was pushing into the last time I stopped Against the Storm. Anyway, just a little quick bonus note, I am doing a new save for this update. Aside from my main save, that I'll just go through on my own, but I'll try to start my learning process on basically in video format on this channel. Additional slots can be bought using Wildfire Essence instead of Ancient Tablets, and the extra slot applies only to the current cornerstone selection. So whenever a cornerstone is available, I assume that's when you can, the extra slot only applies to that instance instead of just future instances in that settlement. It can be bought again for the next cornerstone choice. Rerolling does not remove the additional slot. And I think these are in place of Amber instead, if I recall. Am I going crazy here? Anyway, we'll see what actually happens. But again, this is for, if no one else, me, to kind of learn and retain and remember. Added one new Smoldering City upgrade, Monastery of the Vigilant Flame, level 6. The biggest part of this, one of the bigger parts of the update, sorry, is the commons. There's obviously the biome and the new species as well. But the new unlock, the commons, has been added to the middle of an existing upgrade tree branch. So some upgrades above it may have been moved up to make room. As a result, you might find the new upgrade already unlocked in your save file and may need to repurchase an older upgrade that was shifted upward. So for those newer to the game like I am, yeah, we gotta upgrade to that point. For most veteran viceroys, you'll have everything already. So unless you're making a new save because you want a fresh breath of fresh air on a new save slot. Added an option to unlock service need fulfillment at the hearth. To start fulfilling needs of the hearth, you first need to unlock the commons in the main hearth. For those who didn't know, or those who didn't do the beta, or both, essentially service items could be used at the hearth for less resolve gain. But now you need the commons, I assume. So the commons, a shared space where villagers can fulfill service needs like leisure, luxury, religion, etc. Satisfying needs here grants a smaller resolve bonus than in dedicated service building. So that's the trade-off. You use the commons, but you get less resolve, and your service items are used. But if you are waiting for the service building, but you may never get, then you have to wait for longer with that, for those service need resolve points. Otherwise, it depends on your situation. Sometimes you'll want the commons immediately. Maybe it's meta to just use the commons immediately. Otherwise, waiting for the service building if you need it if you need either, really, is the kind of micromanagement efficiency push. The commons are in a separate tab in the Hearth UI. Unlocking them costs 8 planks, I assume just for that settlement. Once unlocked, the UI tab will list all service needs that can be fulfilled at the Hearth. To gain access to the commons, you must first of course, for the current settlement. To gain access to the commons, you must first purchase an upgrade in the Smoldering City for the entire save. The Monastery Vigilant Flame, level 6 upgrade for 60 food stockpiles and 12 machinery. Fulfilling a service need at a Hearth will grant a smaller resolve bonus than if the same need was fulfilled in the service building. So if this was similar to the beta, yes. For those who don't know, again, like I said, I think it's half of the resolve bonus, so that's the exact value, than if you actually had a service building, like a tavern for ale and wine. Passive bonuses tied to service goods will still be applied if a service need is fulfilled at a Hearth. Double yield chance. So any cornerstones, reputation bonuses, so on and so forth, I assume. Again, maybe I said something wrong, but any veteran viceroys can correct me. Restricting services in the consumption panel applies penalties in the same way as in the case of complex food. So, yes, just like complex food, if you restrict the services, though you have the commons, you'll still take that penalty to your resolve. Am I saying the wrong word? Resolve? Anywho. Added a new legendary cornerstone, Spirit of Cooperation. High spirits can be contagious. Beavers gain +2 resolve for every reputation point gained through Heartbeat resolve. So that's an interesting one to see. We'll see what happens. Again, no opinion because my experience, either I don't remember or I didn't have enough experience. But on to the balance changes on the release update. Change the comfort specialization for foxes. Foxes no longer gain resolve bonus from working in buildings infected with blight rot. Instead, they now have the cooperation specialization. They will gain resolve bonus if at least 3 foxes are working in the same building. For example, the woodcutters camp, if that is still available. The specialization icon for cooperation will appear in the building UI dynamically. So I'm sure there's some nuance here, but for the most part, I think generally the cooperation bonus is much stronger for foxes. Or just that, well, that's what replaced blight rot. For those who didn't know, Blight Rot was a specialization that appeared for if you had, if Blight Rot was present on a building, then this appeared, then you could put foxes in and gain resolve that way for the species in that settlement. And then you'll see this change later on, but this is what it turned into. So no more Blight Rot, just cooperation. At least 3 foxes in the same building. Change the order in which initial firekeepers are assigned to the Hearth. The game will now start with a firekeeper species that is more useful in the early game. This does not mean that the game will always choose the best firekeeper for each settlement. It's just a simple algorithm that prioritizes effects that are generally more useful at the beginning of a settlement. So obviously, again, later on in your settlement, or just even still at the beginning, if you have something specific in mind, yes, throw a frog on the Hearth so if you want faster newcomers, throw humans on if you want more time immediately, because every little time, micromanagement here and there, and then switching firekeepers, or just staying it on. Again, this applies more for viceroys who are pushing prestiges because you want to be more efficient here and there, for those who don't know. Reputation generation from Resolve now caps at 0.75. I mean, this is nice for lower difficulty viceroys as well. Reputation generation from Resolve now caps at 0.75 per minute for every species. Basically making the game harder from what I see. Maybe somehow it makes it easier. That would be really strange. I think there's a common theme in this update in which they want you to be efficient in more places, so a kind of more a wider breadth than a deeper efficiency specialization. Obviously, you still want to specialize here and there, but we'll see as the updates keep rolling in. The Amber reward for declining cornerstones now decreases with each subsequent decline. Each time you decline a cornerstone, the reward is reduced by 2 Amber, down to a minimum of 5 Amber. So whatever you got before, if you take Amber instead of a cornerstone, you now get less Amber per pick. I think that's what happens based on what I understand. World events for the payment now require players to complete both the payment and win the game before year X, whatever X may be. Could be a number, any number, but this, I guess, just makes it more consistent and also makes it harder. But, I mean, it's easier to remember because I've often forgotten. It's like, oh, I completed the world event goal, and then I forgot to win the game, and it was just like, well, shrug. So either way, we'll live with it. Increase the time it takes to cut down a tree from 6 to 9 seconds in a future update. So as we'll go through this video, this will change, but just to say it outright, increase the base gathering time of stone, reeds, plant fiber, sea marrow, leather, and clay from 5 seconds to 8 seconds. So essentially making it harder. But again, you'll note that this tree cutting time will be changed in an update that we're going to read. I'm sitting on a future update right now, so again, I'll explain later. Rebalance a few orders. Distant journey, time to order, increase the time limit by 30 seconds. Same thing for need for timber. I think this is the one where you're cutting. Maybe increased time limit is worse. Or no, it can't be. Anywho, basically, usually the increased time limit is better, unless this is the time limit in which you have to, say, not cut down any trees. Although I think it's named something different. Correct me, or just add information if you want to interact with me. Otherwise, should be good. And if it's more challenging, meh. So increase 30 seconds is a lot of time though. Increase the price of all service goods sold by traders by around 15-20%. Increase the travel time of all trade routes by 10%. Therefore nerfing essentially traders and travel time. But I think this falls in line with the trade timing, as we'll see later on. Rebalance. So let me get through this first. Rebalance trade route resource pools across several biomes: Ashen Thicket, Coastal Grove, Scarlet Orchard, and Marshlands. Each biome now has a similar number of desired resources, providing more even coverage across all of them, thus avoiding situations where eggs would be desired by 6 biomes and meat only by 2, for example. So basically allowing a wider spread of what is more, because in the past, say you entered, I think, Marshlands, if I recall correctly, or the Scarlet Orchard, one of these two, whatever gives you meat on trees. Then you're just like, oh, I guess I'm taking lizards and harpies, or something along that lines. That's probably not the exact example, but anyone, I hope you can see where I'm conceptually getting. So I understand the change, whether it's good or makes the game easier or more challenging, or at least makes it more fun. We'll see. I have not looked at the community. Obviously, it's been a month and a half since the update came out, so shrug. Otherwise, we'll just skip through pretty much UI improvements here. Not really much else to say. Just mainly a lot of quality of life for readability and understanding. Revamped decision tooltips for world events. Added option to prioritize word collection. Actually, this one is important. So, if you weren't around for the beta or are getting into Against the Storm now, what you can do is that during events or in buildings, you can move whatever's in the building. Move whatever's in the building so that they're collected on a priority order. So scouts collect rewards based on their position in the UI, from left to right. Leftmost rewards or items are collected first. Shift left click removes a reward one spot to the left. Control left click moves it to the right. So if you want something immediately available, because you cannot, I think from events, you cannot take resources to be used in things like building, crafting, so on and so forth. So therefore, it kind of matters if you want things to if you want your settlement to use certain things first, available usually from an event. Same thing from so add an option prioritize goods from pawns, and I think other stuff as well, but mainly pawns and glade events. So as I just said, having quicker access to them if you cannot use them from glade events and pawns, obviously, is kind of important, because otherwise they don't count towards your settlement. Say if you want to trade with a trader, or as I just mentioned, crafting, building, so on and so forth. This works similarly to how you prioritize reward collection and events from pawns. So again, for those who don't know, in pawns you're fishing things or grabbing scales. When everything is collected, nets are pulled up, and that's when everything is collected. It's not collected like you would collect meat, reeds, so on and so forth, leather. So, in case anyone didn't know, changed how internal storage, or for newer Viceroys, changed how internal storage and buildings worked. Each produced or gathered resource now has its own storage limit, replacing the previous global resource limit per building. When a resource reaches its limit, or capacity, I assume, it will be transported to a warehouse. Left-click forces immediate delivery of resource in that instant. Shift left-click enables automatic force delivery, making workers transport the resource every time a unit is produced or gathered. So, for those micromanaging or trying to get a more efficient settlement, or both, this is pretty much what you're going to... I assume a lot of Viceroys who are on higher prestiges use these things a lot. Internal storage and buildings, whether doing immediate deliveries, and prioritizing events from rewards and whatnot. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, for those Viceroys starting on easier difficulties, or just newer Viceroys, you don't have to pay attention, but it is something to remember as you climb if you want to challenge yourself further with higher prestige difficulty. The trader arrival timer will now stop completely during the storm and only continue during the drizzle and clearance. So instances where it's like, oh, the trader will arrive after the storm ended, basically freezing the timer when the storm happens, I assume. To maintain the old balance, all traders now have a slightly shorter arrival time. By default, they should appear more or less every full year, which was kind of annoying. But also, I don't doubt there is nuance. I'm sure I've also run into both situations in which I need a trader quickly, or it's like, oh, this trader arrived in the middle of this when I'm trying to do this order, or I would like them to appear later so I can have more time to craft, say, goods or something. The main purpose of the change, though, says the team, is to make the effects that affect the arrival time of traders more meaningful, which... to me, it's more a timing thing, but again, I'm not the most experienced Viceroy, so maybe it's for the best that this happened. I mean, this is something that's pushed by the community, so I believe in the majority here. Added a tooltip to the unlock button in the upgrade tree in the Smoldering City, explaining that an upgrade cannot be purchased if the previous one has been acquired. Quality of life. Reworded world event objectives. Reworded the description of Aura Peace Forest Mystery. Changed the description of the Paradise Deed. Rain Punk, again, more quality of life. Random town name generator now tries to avoid duplicate names within the cycle so that when you're looking at records, it's like, huh? It's not like, huh? Updated the Resolve Encyclopedia entry to also mention boots as a clothing need. Really? That wasn't a... Anyway. With the addition of the common services and service buildings and in the Hearth now display a star rating. Hovering over the stars reveals a tooltip that explains whether the full Resolve bonus is granted in service buildings or only half in the commons at the Hearth. Added a floating text and sound effect to the payment icon on the HUD that plays when the payment is made. This is more going to help me because I often forget. Same thing for trade routes. Yeah, I've just missed trade routes or things that happened when that need to be taken care of. So we'll see if I actually just forget about it or it actually helps out. Improved readability of in-progress trade routes on this trade routes panel. Some entries in the global effects tab in the warehouse have been renamed for clarity. Receiving a random blueprint reward from the overzealous architect's cornerstone will now display an alert. Alerts appearing on the left side for those who don't know or forgot. Updated the internal storage loading tip to more accurately reflect how the system now works. Added a new entry called Food Saved to the Town Statistics tab. It counts the number of food items players save thanks to no consumption effects. So nice to see if you are trying to look for efficiency or see where there was inefficiency. I suppose if you're especially for those who like to micromanage or just push efficiency, like I said. Added a tooltip to the cornerstone icon on the HUD. Buildings with no specialization will now show none in the specialization section in the in-game encyclopedia. As I said, a lot of quality of life. Bug fixes were also... So bug fixes, we're going to kind of skim them. For the most part, these are only good. I think the main bug I don't think I've seen, at least here, is something that has to do with building. So to explain... if you make a building next to a tree or something, sometimes that building just disappears, but the game still treats it like that building is there. I didn't really see anything like that, so let me actually just Control F. Mirrored buildings, no, that's not it. Again, all of these are good. I'm just trying to find out. In instances of flawless purge. So maybe that's what, because it could be just indirectly from one of these bugs. Again, to explain the bug, what happened is that, and I think I've seen it a few times here and there, people talk about it, but you make a building, but the building doesn't appear, but you cannot place anything else there because apparently there is a building there, but there's no one can, no one, neither the player nor the settlers can interact with the building. And I think it also causes a graphical bug where on the center of the screen becomes unavailable for some reason. But again, I'm not seeing the bug here. But your building mirrors incorrectly? No, that's not what I'm thinking. Typos, errors, no. Typos, translations, mistranslations, typos, and other stuff. So, dead villages can be assigned to buildings is interesting. Depending on species ported from parent. Okay, yeah. I had nothing that I had to deal with. I think I have some of the recording. I don't know if I have the recording of it. I definitely have a save file somewhere, but that's from the beta. So we'll see if it happens again during while I'm playing in this update. I'll be more than happy to show it off. But anywho, scaffolding will only be placed outside the footprint of buildings. Yeah, again, don't know what else. Oh, these are other, by the way. So other, we'll go through this. Change the name of the Bleeding Trees perk to avoid duplicates. For the Frog DLC, the Ancient Hearth has been moved in some Coastal Grove maps so that its range does not include inaccessible water fields. I don't know if I've ever run into this. Maybe I have, where I'm just like, well, I guess I can't. So for those who don't know, the Coastal Grove, you start pretty much near a dock, which includes inaccessible or water tiles in which you can't do anything, obviously, because it's the edge of the map. So if the Ancient Hearth, which is randomly placed when your settlement starts, is too close to the water, then you just have dead areas where you just... True RNG that doesn't do anything and is not added to the fun, aside from the fact that maybe you want a challenge. But for the most part, I assume most players, or most Viceroys, wouldn't like that. Scaffolding will no longer be placed outside the footprint of buildings. Yeah, we'll see. And then, because I'm not going to pretend I don't know what this means. Remove the Request a Feature button from the escape menu. We've declined to stop working with the feedback collection platform. The Request a Feature button linked to for various reasons. Mainly because we're not happy with, the team was not happy with the service. Still, there are multiple other cool tools to use, like leaving feedback suggestions, like the in-game reporting tool, and accessible through the escape menu or by pressing F11. Discord, which I would normally use, and Steam forums. Well, I say would because I have not yet really done anything, but otherwise Steam forums as well. So these three are still available. Still, the team still lingers on all these platforms and read every little bit of feedback, as noted by all the lightning marks, which are things that were addressed by the team from the community. Suggestions and reports from the old feedback platform will be archived. Change the name of the Explorers Lodge to Academy due to the due to the introduction of the bat species, which also they've changed the visual appearance for multiple buildings: the grill, the smelter, the smithy, the tinker, the tool shop, and the academy, formerly known as the Explorer's Lodge, a service building. Question mark, right? Remove the option to ignore assist in the blight rot overlay in the blight post, as I'll read out. It's because the foxes no longer have the blight rot specialization, so this option was designed to support a playstyle based around the old fox specialization, blight rot. Now that this specialization has changed, we've found that option is no longer useful. I'm sure there's some nuanced uses, but for the most part, I assume cooperation will be better. So by removing blight rot, you would also remove the option to ignore assist through the blight rot UI. Additionally, it introduced extra micromanagement that the team wasn't keen on. So again, fair enough. Adjusted the positioning of scouts and glade event animations. The save backup system has been improved to create more reliable backups. Clean up the main menu, updated button styles, graphics. Remove the news panel on the left side of the screen. Only appears when you're doing an update. I'm sure that it was annoying for some players. DLC icons were added to the main menu to show which are active, and if only one, only that logo for that DLC will be shown. But when you have everything, the main menu will show a complete edition, as I'll show you at the end of this video. And then supporter pack update, but that's for something else. So, the current version when this update released was 1.8.4. I am on, again, 1.8.12, not 1.2.12. But then there are more major updates. There were some hot patches in between, but unless there's something specific, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll just move on to the major updates where things were actually changed, such as the tree cutting time. So, 1.8.7. Let's go. 1.8.7. Greetings, Viceroys. Another batch of improvements in response to feedback includes an alert for Fluffbeak's enclosures full and reduced tree cutting time specifically. So balance and UX changes. Add an alert for the Fluffbeak. I don't know what that is, but I'll believe. 10 seconds after 3 fertilizer accumulates in Fluffbeak's enclosure, an alert will appear on the HUD. Clicking the alert will automatically collect the fertilizer. So again, if nothing else, for me to learn to remember later. And after reaching 3 fertilizer, the progress bar for the next piece will continue to fill, but only up to 99% on the 4th piece. So you can't just keep getting freebies. That would be ridiculous, design-wise. Reduce the time to cut down a tree from 9 seconds, because again, it was moved from 5 or 6 to 9 to 7 seconds. So still longer, but not that long. Those 3 seconds can be quite important. Reduce the time to plow field in the Forces hut from 20 to 10. Really? It was that long? Anywho. Change the reward for the Trading Master time to order from Deep Pockets to the Value Added Tax Cornerstone. So a little reward switcheroo here. Wonder why that happened. Updated the progress preview on the Steel Focus Cornerstone. Now only displays the acquired bonus without the 0 out of 1 counter. Yeah. I've noticed some counter things, finicky things happening, but I didn't really... It didn't annoy me too much, but anywho. The Chest Chaser order can no longer appear in games with a Riverlance modifier. I assume because something impossible happens. And then bug fixes. Again, I'm only really looking for a very specific bug, but I'm sure the newer things that were introduced to version 1.8 or things that were needed to be fixed as bugs. The Loud Fox gained double comfort bonus when first assigned as builders to 3-slot building. Yeah, that was weird. That would be weird. Routing error, no. Again, I'm looking specifically for a building bug or glitch. I don't know if that would ever be addressed. So game version when these changes were made is 1.8.7, and so for the explanation we'll go in. When it comes to the woodcutting time, the team originally increased it from 6 to 9, so 6 to 9, now it's back to 7 due to villagers behavior refactor introduced in one of the updates a couple of months back. So they had a reason for it. I'm not going to pretend to understand, I'm just at least going to read it out so that you can think about it, you, the viewer, listener. As a result of the refactor, villagers started reacting faster, wasting less time, and picking better paths. In most situations, this didn't influence the output in any noticeable way. However, woodcutting is so quick that the optimization of villagers' brains, quote-unquote, overhead was so significant that it resulted in a notable production boost, so they wanted to make the game harder. As a result, we decided to increase the cutting time to balance it out. However, players complained regarding this change and decided to reduce the wood cutting time to 7 seconds. It may not be that noticeable change though, as villagers spend most of the time walking and transporting goods rather than on wood cutting itself, but 3 seconds, I'll say it, in my opinion, 3 seconds to 3 to 5 seconds changed is a lot in Against the Storm. Barring any weird 30 second increases and decreases, which include those time orders. Villagers spend most of the time walking and transporting goods rather than on woodcutting itself. Nevertheless, the net time of the entire woodcutting process is now more similar to 1.7, and it's still much shorter than it was a few updates ago. The team hopes that Viceroys will enjoy it. Thank you once again for playing, sharing your impressions with us, and that was that. But as we move on to version 1.8.11, so let's move on. 1.8.11. Again, I repeat it for the timestamp's sake. Greetings, Viceroys. We just released a new patch featuring dozens of improvements and fixes. While it doesn't include new content, its primary focus is gameplay balance, but is addressing the issues that Viceroys have reported over the past few weeks. Truly great. The team has been truly grateful for every bug report, piece of feedback, all support given. Thanks. So UX UI improved changes, updated the descriptions of the higher needs, paradise needs to clarify that needs must be fulfilled in service buildings, not in the commons. Really, yeah, that would be a little confusing because you're holding on to service. Replace the villager mascot and breadwinner icons in the Fluffbeak UI with new assets. Interesting. Added an entrance indicator to the feast hall in the somber procession event. Improve the description of the deeply. Again, these are things that I have not touched yet, so it's like I'm just saying them out loud. But again, maybe I'll remember later. Improve the description for the deeply hidden riches effect in the Ashen Thicket for better clarity. Updated the description of the sell items order objective to clarify that goods don't need to be sold to a single trader or trade route. Again, it's always good, if nothing else, to not obfuscate things and to make things more clear if you have the space and clarity and conciseness to explain things. Change the resources header to mining vein in the ore UI panel. Updated the flavor text when opening mystery boxes purchased from traders other than Dillahan? Going crazy. Anyway, bug. Bugs that in blue. Again, I'm looking for specifically the building. If I'm repeating this, is because maybe people skip to a timestamp. But yes, there's a very specific bug, building bug that I don't know has ever been addressed. Maybe it has been in a future, past update before 1.8. If so, then I'm just kind of just glancing over. But nonetheless, it's not like it's weird unless we're doing a search later. But it will happen later on. So bugs fixed. Current version is 1.8.11, and if nothing else, a very funny note at the end here. Due to yesterday's, at the time of this node's release, colossal Silksong premiere, there may still be some issues with downloading on Steam. If you experience any problems loading the game after today's patch, please verify the integrity of the game files because Silksong's out. So, and congrats to Team Cherry. So the team wishes everyone a great time with the game, a joyful weekend. I assume this is an icon of some sort. Emote, because I copy-pasted. May the story be gentle, Eremite game. So yeah, without further ado, I'll show you my screen just to show you. But yeah, I'm on version 1.8.12R. So just wanted to get through this video, just at least, ow, my knuckles. Just to, if for no one else than myself, to learn these things. And I went through like half of a settlement, so I should get to, if I continue doing Against the Storm videos, or start doing Events Against Storm videos again for this update, this is where I'm starting off. So without further ado, I think this is a good thing. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I am not the most knowledgeable Viceroy for Against the Storm. So, I mean, feel free to ask, because if no one else, I'll benefit from learning things myself. Otherwise, again, I am open to comments, criticism, opinions, questions, so on and so forth, and suggestions. But without further ado, I won't take up much more of your time. If you want to support me, you know what to do as well. Thank you for watching. Bye!